With 26 days to go until the midterms, our next guest says House Republicans are in a position to make history and win the largest majority in 8 decades. Joining us now to talk about the Republicans' plan to win back the House is New York Congresswoman and House Republican Conference Chair Elise Stefanik. Congresswoman, welcome to the show. Always good to have you on. All right, big inflation numbers coming out today. It is up 0.4% in September. We're still at a 40-year high, but we have President Biden out saying that Democrats are the one that have the policies to fix inflation, especially, he says, by passing the Inflation Reduction Act. And then in a statement today, he said that if Republicans take control of Congress, everyday costs will go up for Americans, not down. If Republicans do win back the House, you all say that economy and lowering inflation is your #1 priority. So are you confident that you will lower inflation?
Absolutely, Lindsay. And here's why. The American people know that this historic Bidenflation is a result of single-party Democrat rule. You've had trillions and trillions of reckless spending of taxpayer dollars going into the economy that's created, as I said, the highest rate of inflation in my lifetime. So the fact that Joe Biden goes out there and says that his Inflation Expansion Act, which has caused inflation to go up, as we saw with the latest inflation statistic that was released today, House Republicans are going to stop the reckless spending, stop the $1 trillion of wasteful spending that Democrats have forced out the door in single-party rule, and we will be a check on Joe Biden's inflationary-causing fiscal irresponsible policies that we've seen in just 2 years. And it cannot come soon enough. That's why in the next 26 days, we're making sure that every voter turns out across this country so we can have a red tsunami this November to help be a check on Joe Biden's failed agenda.
So I agree with you. I think that I'm very bullish about how well you'll do in the House, and I think you're going to do very well in the Senate. The thing that's interesting is we still have one more problem there. That's the White House. Biden's going to be president for 2 more years. And so, when we talk about fixing inflation or fixing immigration or any of these other things, how can that happen when you've still got that obstacle in the White House thwarting that agenda?
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. With inflation at its highest level in 40 years and interest rates skyrocketing, your retirement plans are in danger. Well, our friends at American Hartford Gold can help show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. Yeah. If you call them right now, they have a special offer. They will give you a free gold coin on your first qualifying order. So don't wait. Call now. Here's the number, 866-935-4309. That's 866-935-4309, or text Newsmax to 65532. That's Newsmax to 65532.
It's a really important question, Sean, and this is why it's so important to not just win back the House with a historic majority, but win back the Senate as well. We want to have good conservative bills, including fiscally responsible and conservative spending bills spent to the president's desk. He will then be forced to choose. Is he going to work with us, or is he going to sell out to the radical left, as he has done for his entire presidency, and veto those bills? That is his decision to make, but the reality is House Republicans are going to work, hopefully, with a Republican Senate to do our job to rein in inflation. And that's what the American people, when there is a red wave this November, they're sending us to fix this broken economy, to make sure that we're addressing this inflation crisis, to lower the prices of energy, as well as so many other issues that have become a crisis in Joe Biden's America.
And one of those, Congresswoman, is the border. We just had your governor, Kathy Hochul, calling out President Biden for what she's calling a humanitarian crisis. And New York City Mayor Eric Adams is declaring a state of emergency for the city. Your district is a little further north. Is that something that your constituents are worried about, concerned about?
Yes, it is, Lindsay, and I'll tell you why. Every district across America is impacted by this border crisis at our southern border. We've seen skyrocketing fentanyl overdoses across America, pouring in across our southern border, including in New York State alone. It was the largest fentanyl bust in our nation's history just recently in New York State, right at the time of Halloween. It was disguised as candy. So here we are in America. Parents have to be worried about their kids' Halloween candy because of Joe Biden's border crisis, which has created created a fentanyl crisis. I also represent Border Patrol officers who are stationed along the U.S.-Canadian border. They've been transferred over and over and over again to our southern border to deal with this surge, to deal with the result of these pro-amnesty open border policies. So, Democrats are trying to point the finger to others, but the reality is we had a very secure border, the most secure border in our nation's history under President Trump. We know what policies work. That's build the wall, supporting our Border Patrol officers, and supporting the rule of law. Joe Biden has taken us in exactly the opposite direction, and Kathy Hochul, or Mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, they are complicit in this humanitarian, national security, and economic crisis created by the border crisis.
Yeah. It's interesting. For the last several cycles, you've led an effort to elect more Republican women to the House. And the New York Times did a piece this morning about the record number of minority candidates running this year. The left likes to paint the party as the party of old white men, but Republicans have for a long time accused Democrats of playing identity politics. And so I wanted to get your take on why you think it matters to have such a diverse group of people running again this cycle, and why it's not just for the sake of diversity, why it's important.
Well, I've always been very specific, Sean. When I launched EPAC with the mission of electing more Republican women, it's not just because they're women, it's because they're the strongest candidates. And we've seen that time and time again. We have diverse support among the Republican Party. That's the untold story in the mainstream media, is that President Trump actually grew the Republican Party with African-American voters, with Hispanic voters. And these candidates that are stepping forward, this is the most diverse slate of Republican candidates we've had in our nation's history. And I'll tell you what, 3 races to watch very closely. I think this year is going to be dubbed the year of the Latina Republican because of the Hispanic Republican women we have running who are going to flip seats, not only in South Texas because of the border crisis, but in places like Oregon and other parts of the United States. We are a diverse country, and Republicans have support in diverse communities, and we're very proud of that because every community has been impacted by the inflation crisis, the crime crisis, the border crisis. So I'm optimistic that there will be some great maybe not headlines in the New York Times because they never give us credit, but it's going to be a great diverse class of incoming Republican members with a historic majority. But we can't take it for granted. We have to get out every vote in the next 26 days.
Absolutely.
All right. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, thanks for being here with us this evening.
Thank you.